My name's Dave Page.
Hello, everyone. I'm Renee Rentmeester. I'm the creator and executive producer of the Cooking Without Looking TV show and podcast. And today we have someone very special for you. He's someone who also likes to cook and not look. And he's across the pond. His name is Dave Page, also goes by Blind Dave. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course, of course. Where exactly are you? You're in England, right?
Yes, I am in the south coast of England, down the bottom by the sea. If you went any more south, you would get wet.
Okay. But we don't want to do that. What's the name of your city, your town?
I'm not far from Portsmouth.
Okay, all right. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and your blindness journey.
Okay. Well, I was born with optic atrophy, which, for those of you who don't know, is um, malformed or damaged optic nerves. So my eyes work fine, but the connection between the eye and the brain is not there. It is there a little. I have light perception, but I'm registered as no usable vision. Um, I went to mainstream schools up until senior school or high school for you guys. Um, then I went to, it is a mainstream school, the high school I went to, but they have a unit where they modify resources, so textbooks into large print or braille, um, and they provide assistance in normal lessons where necessary. So if you need a little bit of extra help, um, like reading off the board or something, they'll provide somebody to work with you in each lesson. But it's sort of a good balance between because sort of specialist schools for various disabilities personally I think come with a lot of problems, um, especially for integration into real life afterwards. So yeah, I think that's a good balance. The support was provided, but you still get the social integration with sighted peers as well. So
You said
but
you found it has some problems. What did you want to list a couple?
I can do this will undoubtedly cause a little bit of controversy between the specialist school leavers and the those who didn't go to specialist schools. But
Well, we know
in
who
my
has
own
no controversy.
in my own personal experience, I have found that those who went to specialist schools uh, tend to or can have a little bit of a shock when they go out into life itself, into the real world, and the schools perhaps do a little too much. So they go through a specialist school with everything modified, everything perfect for if you were or are a blind person. And then when you go out into to the real world, that's not always the case. And I, again, this is my opinion.
Mm.
I've found that some of those people struggle to adjust going from that specialist environment into an environment that's perhaps not solely dedicated to people with disabilities.
And so you went to the mainstream school, right?
I did go, yeah, I went to a mainstream school, but there was a specialist unit where work could be modified and support provided when necessary.
Right. What other things do you consider that could be made easier or better, more towards like getting people ready for the real world for people who are blind or visually impaired?
Um, I'm 37 now, so my my school knowledge is a little out of date, and it's certainly possible that things could have changed, but um, I think perhaps it might be better. Well, I don't know, actually. This is a complicated question that I wasn't expecting.
Oh,
Um,
sorry.
more, I think perhaps more integration with what would be considered mainstream students, um, to help acclimatize those with disabilities to how things are done by the sighted community, and I think that can be um, a bit of a problem because personally, as a blind person, I feel that although it would be fantastic if everything in the world was 100% accessible, and it's always good. I mean, obviously, legally, companies have to make to sort of do their best, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
to uh, to make things accessible. To go out into the world expecting everything to be that way, um, can make people come across as a little defensive and arrogant. And I think that's perhaps part of the reason why um, fully sighted people who don't know anything about sort of the blindness world can find um, not just blindness, but people with varying disabilities to be a little standoffish on occasion. But
Well, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Part of the reason of our show is like I felt like there were like a lot of organizations doing wonderful things to train people who are blind, but then no one knows anyone who's blind. Like I've been in a room with 200 people and I say, how many of you know someone who's blind? And it's like four people raised their hand. And so if we bring it out into the open and show people who are blind or visually impaired, it seems, I don't know, tell me what you think. It seems like it makes it easier um to for both sides to get along and understand each other.
yeah, definitely, it's just more awareness of both sides of the situation as well. I think the blind community could perhaps be a little bit more accepting of the fact that um, not everybody knows the best way to interact with people of varying disabilities, and that's not necessarily their fault. You
Right.
you can't as a sighted or fully able-bodied person be expected to know everything about all disabilities. And I think sometimes the disabled community can be a little bit sort of demanding where that comes in. Um, and even sometimes, I'll give you an example. I remember and a moderator for the British Blind Community Facebook group, and sometimes on there you'll get a blind person come on and they'll say, "Oh, somebody came up to me and asked me, tried to help me cross the road," um, which is a is a nice, kind thing to do, and
Right.
and because they didn't need that help, or they didn't need it, they get all
Yeah, I get a
grumpy
little
and
miffed.
yeah, yeah, and then and then people wonder why um, sighted people don't offer to help. Well, because last time they tried, they got
They had their
vilified on Facebook for it.
head they had their head bitten off.
Yeah, you can't have it every way.
Oh, that's a really good point. Well, you have a YouTube channel I'd love to hear about. Dave, tell us about it.
Well, I started the YouTube channel on the recommendation of my wife, who is a fully trained chef. I'd done some cooking growing up, So I'd lived on my own and things, but I knew enough to feed myself and not starve, basically.
It's always good.
Um, yeah, indeed. Perhaps not the healthiest recipes, but when I met my wife, she started teaching me uh, some more advanced cookery, and with her encouragement, I started doing a few cooking videos and posting them to YouTube. The channel still does and will have more cookery stuff coming back to it, but it's expanded out a lot. I've done some demonstrations of how Braille works, voiceover demonstrations for the iPad, um, some non-blind related things. I do a sort of podcast thing called Pints and Ports, where myself and one of a few circulating tech enthusiast friends of mine sit down and have a drink and a chat and about the various tech goings on at the moment. Um, and the latest thing um, is a sort of comedy thing, same sort of format. Me and a friend uh, having a chat, but it's called Only in the UK, where we take a look at some of the more bizarre Englishisms that you
Tell
would only
tell us
experience.
one. Tell us one, Dave. We promise we won't get rude.
Well, actually, there's an episode going out tonight where we discuss the difference between sort of the UK's drinking culture and that of certain parts of the rest of the world, and it's quite illuminating.
Well, it's actually part of your culture to like drink, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, um, but it's so much, like in France, they drink and they'll have a glass of wine with lunch or whatever, but they'll have a glass of wine with lunch, not three bottles of wine.
And you guys in the UK have the three bottles of wine.
Well, not always with lunch, but
It's funny. I come from Wisconsin, which is up in the northern part of the United States, and it's very much of a culture like, okay, people will go to church on Sunday, and right across the street is a tavern, and the whole family goes to the tavern and drinks and does, hangs out, talks, whatever. And then when I was in Miami, when I lived in Miami, it was much different. It was like you would think it was like really partying, but a lot of it was like, oh no, you can't drink, you don't do this much. And I remember sitting down and I'm used to having a beer. And when I first got there, they were like, oh, well, they asked me for a glass of wine, and I go, no, I'm having a sandwich, I'll have a beer. And they just sort of looked at me like really strange, like because I was a woman, I was supposed to drink wine and not beer. It's just funny stuff like that.
yeah, that's do we have no, that's not really a thing in the UK. I mean, women will drink beer or wine. Men probably men are more likely, I guess, to have a pint of beer than a glass of wine, but I wouldn't say there was a stigma attached to either drinking either, if you know what I mean. Not anymore.
Right.
Maybe 30, 40 years ago, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, this was just recently. But yeah, I like it seems like in the UK it's more of a relaxed thing about drinking.
well, of course we have a younger drinking age than you as well.
Oh, really? What is it?
It's 18.
Oh, yeah. Well, we used to be 18. When I was 18, it was legal for 18-year-olds to drink, but then they changed it to 21.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it had always been 21. Is
Yeah.
it a state to state thing or?
Now it is more, but mostly it's 21. I'd have to check the latest because like I'm so far past 21. So, But yeah, it was 18 when I was that age. But well, Dave, tell us a little bit about your recipe. And you've said that your wife actually helped you learn more about cooking and everything in the kitchen. Tell us about your recipe, which is today's recipe of the day on our website, www.cookingwithoutlooking.tv.wordpress.com.
Well, yeah, my wife taught me cooking with vegetables. I was a master deep fat fryer before I met my wife, and um, actually, I have noticed that deep fat frying isn't widely taken up by the blind community, but I think it's a real shame. It's certainly something that can be safely done. I have a actually the way I do it probably wouldn't be considered the safest way if you can't see. I just have a stovetop um, deep fat fryer pan that you just heat up on a gas ring, and it has a basket in, and you just dip it in. But with like electric controlled fryers now, it is perfectly safe for those who cannot see to deep fry. Um,
Right, the air
uh,
fryers.
uh, See, we have an air fryer. We had two for a while. We've got the Ninja, the big Ninja foodie air fryer. I don't, is that a thing in America? Do you have those? The Ninja?
Yeah, yeah, we've got those,
Yeah.
yes.
Um, and they're good. They are good. They are good, but you can't. I think they don't make good chips. Once you've had chips that have been deep fried in lard, um,
It's just not
just
the same.
it's not the same. No, they're. But yeah, we use our air fryer all the time for lots of stuff. But I like that you can cook a whole chicken in about 40 minutes if you use the pressure cooker function. But um, I think for things that should be fried, you need oil, I think, personally. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
just me.
I'm
Yeah.
sort of like that too. I actually bought my daughter an air fryer for Christmas, and then she loves it. She puts everything in there, shrimp and fish and all sorts of things. And I'm like the old-fashioned way. I don't always fry things in lard because I just don't always have lard in the house. But I there's a different taste to it, and maybe it's just because I was raised with that. But I do like the lard or the oil.
Yeah. Um, when when I came over to Florida, I went to Disney, and there's a supposedly a UK style fish and chip shop within Disney, and that it's not the same. I
No,
don't know
no.
why, because the people who run it are British, but it just I don't know whether they use different oil or, but nothing beats English fish and chips. It really,
They've Americanized or whatever they were making, and they didn't make it in the same way that they made it in the UK, probably.
but as I said, I said they're British expats, so I don't know how they've managed to mess it up, but they have.
Well, there are a lot of Americans who don't make things that are traditionally American taste good either. So, it just depends on the individual, I would think.
By and large, I enjoy the food when I've been over there, but
But, well,
it's it
what was that?
they're gone. I was just going to say it's different. It's not better or worse. It's just you know
Different. Yeah.
different. Yeah,
Well, you want to share your recipe today with us, Dave?
certainly. Do you want me to go through the ingredients, or
Sure,
do we
sure.
just have that on the? Okay. Well, this is a stroganoff, and you'll need one red onion, two cloves of garlic, 500 grams of fillet steak, two handfuls of mushrooms, a teaspoon of paprika, a knob of butter, olive oil, a small or large, depending on your preference, glass of brandy, 50 grams of sour cream. Oh, and that's it. Sorry, I was copying my screen reader as it read it to me in my ears. I didn't remember that recipe. I have a terrible memory. So to make this, you need to peel and chop your garlic and onion. Chop the mushrooms, depending on what size they are, into quarters. But obviously, if they're smaller mushrooms, then just halves will do. Slice your steak into thin strips. Um, and then, if you, sorry, yeah, then you need to fry your mushrooms, garlic, and onions in some garlic butter with your paprika. Um, and if you're cooking without looking, then you can use the edge of your spatula to the corner of the spatula. That's what I do to judge the texture as to when your meat slash onions, etc., are cooked. Then you need to remove all that from the frying pan. I usually just put it onto a spare plate at the side. Um, then, sorry, then you need to separately, if you can, put the beef back into the pan with a little bit of olive oil just to cook it off for a bit longer. And put your vegetables back in along with your brandy. Then turn it right down, let it simmer until your brandy is almost completely gone, which I would work out by pushing everything over to one side of the pan, using the back of a plastic spatula to sort of tap the bottom of the pan and work out whether all the liquid has gone. Um, then all you need to do is stir through your sour cream, heat it for a couple of minutes, keep stirring it so the cream doesn't go weird, but stir it all together, heat it up, and I tend to serve it on just a bed of boiled rice. It's a very, very simple recipe, but very tasty. Hello?
Oh, hello.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
I was muted and talking to myself. Um, I've made it in the past and I really love it. I haven't made it in a long time, so thank you for jogging my memory. And I think I may make it this weekend. It sounds delicious.
Yeah, it is a good one, and it's so quick as well. Some beef stroganoff recipes take a really long time, and you have to like slow cook the beef and stuff, which is also a very nice way of doing it. But
I was just
this
gonna
is what I
say you
would,
could almost put that in the slow cooker, right?
yeah, yeah. And this is what I call a weekday recipe. You know, when you've been at work all day,
Sure,
it
sure.
only takes about 20 minutes. It's a good one.
Oh my. Well, Dave, tell us again what your YouTube channel is and tell us how people can reach out to you.
Okay, my YouTube channel, if you just search for Blind Dave on YouTube, mine is the first channel that comes up. You can also find me on Twitter or X, as it's now called, as Blind Dave 88. And you can also find me on Facebook under the same name. I have a page on there as well. If anybody wants to reach out to me directly, you can do so at blind_Dave@icloud.com.
Well, that's great. Dave, thank you so much for being here today and thank you for helping us change the way we see blindness. If any of you want Dave's recipe or any recipes that you've heard, we have our YouTube channel. It's called Cooking Without Looking, funny enough. And you can also go to our website at www.cookingwithoutlookingtv.wordpress.com. It'll be to the left. You just click on it, and the recipes and kitchen tips are all there towards the left. Also, if you want to donate to our foundation, it's Vision World Foundation, and there's a link at the very top of our homepage. You can click on that. And if you want, one of our official Cooking Without Looking TV show aprons, which we have for fundraising right now. You can click on that Vision World Foundation link at the top of the page and send $55 and we will send you the apron once you send us your address. So thank you again, Dave. I really had a good time and I hope you did as well.
I
And take
did, yeah.
care.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having
And
me on.
no problem. Okay, and thank you everyone for listening. You can listen to our podcast anywhere you receive your podcasts. And again, thank you for helping us change the way we see blindness. Have a good one, Dave.
You too. Thank you very much.